That's right. It's time for Catching Up with Carley, presented by Meijer. And today I'm pleased to be joined by former Tigers pitcher, Nate Robertson. How's it going, Nate?
It's good, Carly. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. Thanks for being on. What have you been up to lately?
Lots of golf. I've actually got my golf attire on now. I'll be golfing after our interview. So yeah, doing a lot of that.
Well, let's get through this and we'll get you out on the links. All right. So, a couple questions. What have you been doing, but what did you do before the pandemic? I understand you are still in baseball.
Yeah, I actually, I was a team owner with an independent club here in Wichita. But we actually were bought out by the city. AAA baseball came to Wichita, the Marlins AAA franchise. So we have this brand new $75 million stadium downtown Wichita, which hasn't had a game played in it, which it's kind of been a terrible deal. The majority owner actually passed away. He did get the COVID, and he had some other health complications. But it's kind of been sad, obviously, with baseball being something that's a great social gathering for many. So this summertime has been really strange for a lot of us.
Absolutely. And after we saw the MLB play this weird condensed season, we saw big news coming out of the Tigers organization just last week with the Tigers naming AJ Hinch as their manager, someone you played with and pitched to during your time in Detroit and Toledo with the Mud Hens. How cool is it to now see him in this position?
Well, I mean, AJ obviously he's been successful at every level, and he's an intellect. He was a great teammate to me, and he helped me along. He's like I said, he's very smart, and as a young pitcher at the time, he helped me really understand what I was trying to do out there on the mound. But I think he does a great job in understanding his players. And I actually heard part of his interview when they got hired. He talked about getting the most out of each individual, and that's his job. And I played for a great manager, Jim Leland, who did the very same thing.
Absolutely. And how beneficial is it when a manager has actually played the game of baseball and specifically for that organization previously?
Oh, it's great, and I mean the relationships run deep, and he's obviously been part of the organization before. His relationship with Avila has been outstanding, and going through an interview process, and for Al and uh, David Chad to sit down and talk to him and go through that hiring process. I have my trust in Al and David, and so I know that they made the right choice.
Absolutely. Can't wait to see what he does with the team. Do you have any fun stories and moments you shared with him during your time together?
Oh, so AJ he probably wouldn't remember this, but we had a game, and it's actually when we were both Mud Hens before we both got called up, '03, and we were cruising along. I mean, he was calling a great game, and I was trusting the pitches that he was throwing down. But I was working on a BP fastball, and so every now and then I'd sneak it in there when he'd call fastball, and he didn't really appreciate that much. So I remember I remember we came into the dugout in the seventh inning. I think we were up 2-1, and I'd given up one run through seven, and he goes over and he's frustrated and he says, "Nate, we're on the opposite ends of the world right now." And so so at the time I'd given up one run in 7 innings, and I was looking at him, and I looked up at the scoreboard, and I looked back at him, and I was like, okay, I don't get that. But anyway, we had some good times together in that short period of time.
As long as it worked out in the end.
Yeah, exactly.
And continuing your career with the Tigers in 2006, you helped lead the Tigers into their ALCS sweep over the over the Oakland Athletics. What was that experience like having that with your team?
Well, it was especially for me and a guy like Brandon Inge and a Craig Monroe and Ramon Santiago. There was about 7 or 8 of us that had been holdovers from that '03 team that lost 119 games. So to go through that process, and that's the kind of the process that I'm seeing with the Tigers right now as well. Going to spring training the last couple of years, seeing the young talent now, seeing these pitchers come in that have these bionic arms, and now you're almost positioning yourself to get those bigger free agents. You let the front office decide when that's the time to strike, but that's what happened with us. Then you bring in a Pudge and a Kenny Rogers, a Todd Jones with all of the you had Verlander coming up, and you had Zamaya, and we had this perfect formula, and we should have won the World Series. I mean, the best team did not win, But we had a great run. It was a lot of fun, great memories, and this is the best year of my life in baseball for sure.
I love that. And that year when you were called up, was this a team that you had faith in from the get-go? Did you think, yeah, we're going to go to the World Series this year? Or was it just like, oh my gosh, we made it this far?
Yeah, we we knew we had talent. I think, and it was Jim Leland's first year. He had come in and immediately met every player where he was at, and by what I mean by that is that he got to know each and every one of us and what made us tick. And so he was able to maximize each and every one of our abilities with where we were at. And then that just it created a great culture. The clubhouse was amazing. We started winning, up front, and we had, we were like kind of looking around at each other, saying, we're pretty good team. And so we made that. Obviously we won a lot of games, came up short at the end, but there was a time that, after the All-Star break especially, we knew that we were going to make a really deep run.
Love it. It was a great year in Tigers history. That same year in 06, you started the gum time tradition where you filled your mouth with Big League Chew to rally on your teammates. What was the thought process behind that? What got you there?
I was actually standing. They used to do quite a few of those in-game mics. They put on a player most of the time as a pitcher because a starting pitcher, because we didn't, we'd be in the dugout and we didn't have anything else to do because it wasn't the day we were pitching. And so I was standing there with Kenny Rogers. They actually asked him to do it, and then he passed it along to the younger guy. He didn't. He was too cool of a vet to do that. So we're going through the game, and I told him, I said, "Look, guys, I'm kind of a boring guy, but I'll throw you a bone." And we were down by 5. It's 5-0 to the Yankees, and I did something that we did in Little League. We used to throw in a big wad of seeds or gum for a rally chew, and so they put the camera on me, and they had the mic obviously live, and I was throwing the gum, I was stuffing my mouth with the gum, and right when I did it, like at that instant, Pudge hits a home run. So it was instant TV magic. And then I did it like 2 or 3 more times in that game. And we actually came back. We lost the game in extra innings, but we came back and tied it up. But I'd done it a few times, and the fans they jumped all over it. And it was a magical season, so they followed every little thing, and you don't realize how much fans pay attention to until you experience something like that. Because the next day I pitched against the Yankees, and there was these kids had these signs drawn up of me with a big wad of bubble gum in my mouth, and then it just became kind of a cult following that year.
Somewhat of like a superstition that fans latch onto.
Yeah.
Really.
That's right.
And having watched the Tigers, I'll talk about the current Tigers team. Sorry, was there something you wanted to say?
Well, I was just going to say about that year, I think we led the major leagues in comeback victories, and so that was kind of our rally cry. So anyway, it was a fan thing, and people always ask me about that, but I was like, the fans embraced it. It was their thing to do, and we had a lot of fun with it.
Yeah, I mean, when it works, it works. If it's putting gum in your mouth, it's putting gum in your mouth. You do what you got to do for the team.
That's right.
And talking about the current Tigers team, having watched them during this odd condensed season, what are some takeaways from the team that you saw? I know you mentioned that you were also down in Lakeland for training camp.
Yeah, yes, and Carley, to be honest with you, it's crazy for me to watch these athletes today being retired officially in 2014. I've been away from the game as an athlete pitcher, but I see these guys and their athleticism and their abilities, and I sit there and go, how did I compete at that level? Because it doesn't really make sense. Those guys. So the talent is obviously across the board. The talent's there. And I think I revert back to what AJ said about getting the most out of your players, each individual, because once you do that, you're going to bring together a team. And so, like I said, with the talent being there, and I was around the pitchers a lot, obviously, but I mean the pitching is ridiculous. They have so many arms, and just being able to get the most out of those players, you'll have a team. You'll have a really good team, and you'll have a good team for a while.
Yeah. Hopefully that happens next season. We're hoping that AJ Hinch can bring us to the World Series. But Nate, it has been an absolute pleasure meeting you virtually and getting to talk to you.
Well, Carley, I'll see you in Detroit sometime. How about that?
Yes, absolutely. Thanks again for joining me on Catching Up with Carley, presented by Meijer. Daniela, back to you.